In the creator economy, most people chase likes.
So we default to saying, I need the likes, I need the engagement, I need the comments.
They tell you to build a personal brand first, but what if everything we've been taught about making money is backwards?
People don't buy because someone is popular, right? You sell the pathway that leads to the transformation.
I'm Elliot Murray, and on this episode of Creators Who Convert, we speak to Ryan Musselman, the man who scaled his coaching business to nearly $1 million in only 18 months.
Since starting that company and versions of that company in 2023, we've almost hit the $1 million mark in terms of coaching sales.
With over 70,000 followers on LinkedIn and one of the main voices on the platform, he's challenging conventional wisdom about how creators really make money.
And so we're perpetuated by this idea to say, if I can just be popular, then I can sell.
He's controversial.
The controversial advice here is start with premium pricing. Your knowledge is already premium.
He's direct.
So right now I have 80 clients and I'm able to serve them in an hour or less per day.
And he's about to reveal how anyone can build a real business that generates real revenue without falling into the content creator trap.
One core offer to rule them all. Or the rings, right? One ring to rule them all, one offer to rule them all.
This is Creators Who Convert. Welcome to Creators Who Convert. So this is the show where we dive into how amazing creators are not just creating amazing content, but they're actually driving real revenue. I'm your host, Elliot, and today I'm joined by Ryan. Ryan is an amazing coach. He's also a huge personality on LinkedIn who you've probably seen his posts somewhere or another. And he's got an amazing approach that really goes against traditional LinkedIn wisdom. He's an absolute beast, and I'm really honored to have him on. Ryan, welcome to the show.
Hey, man. I'm glad to be here. It's finally a show in the making. I know we've been planning this for a while, so it's nice to finally be here.
For sure. And you are guest number one, which I'm really excited about. Honored to have you as guest number one.
Oh, even more special. Make sure you tell everyone else that they weren't the first guest. I need those accolades. I'll take it.
We'll get a trophy made and get that sent to you. Guest number
exactly.
one.
Plaque and everything. We need to have a ceremony, obviously, at this point.
Love it. So Ryan, maybe you could start by just telling us a tiny bit about yourself, a little bit how you got started, and really how you got so specialized in coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been around the creator economy for quite some time, since its earlier days when YouTube started to become a thing. So my foray into coaching really started as a content business or exposure to content businesses, both at small companies like startups and larger companies like Google, who were making big plays there. And ultimately, that carried over to LinkedIn, where I started to build out my own coaching offer that was first just hyper-focused on content. How do you build a strategic content protocol that allows you to not only build your brand, but eventually monetize it? And most people were just trying to figure it out through content, but they couldn't figure out how to connect their content to a pathway that sells a particular transformation. And we'll get into that a little bit later. I have a lot to say on that. So I evolved my offer from content to helping with the offer and the selling of that offer. Now I'm the founder of my own company called Coaches Who Close. And since starting that company and versions of that company in 2023, we've almost hit the $1 million mark in terms of coaching sales. So it's just been a very fruitful experience. I'm very grateful to be able to do what I do today and help the people I help, because it's just, I get to work with amazing clients.
Yeah, I think you touched on a few really interesting things there. And the one that really kind of jumped out is that I think we kind of prioritize becoming a content creator. It's kind of like, we get addicted to the dopamine of likes flooding in, and we think like that's success because, I think as almost primal humans, we crave attention in some ways. And there's kind of good attention and there's also kind of useless attention. And what I see a lot on LinkedIn is almost useless attention, where it's like, it looks great, it's very fluffy, you get a ton of engagement, but does it convert to sales? And I think there's almost a trap where, coaches and I guess anybody who's trying to create a business gets almost hooked up into that dopamine game. And I'd just be interested to hear your kind of take on that and why you think that happens.
Yeah, I think it's just a natural reaction of the inherent desire to be rich and famous, right? That comes out in all of us. We grew up seeing celebrities on TV. We always wondered what a life of that would look like. And I think if we're all honest with ourselves, there's a bit of that rich and famous taste or flavor we have and we look at that lifestyle. And I'm not saying that's true of all of us, but it is maybe to an extent, some more and some in others. But we also give it a misattributed halo effect. And we think that the actual building of the brand also means it's going to convert into some form of monetary benefit, whether that means selling courses, quote unquote, while we sleep, or just being the next big guru on the space who's got amazing high ticket programs to sell. Maybe someone read that a really good book and was like, oh, I know I can do what that person does. And now I'm going to start selling my coaching program at 100K per year. So whether you're on the small course side of it or the high ticket side of it, we look at the gateway to that success through the idea of a personal brand. And so we're perpetuated by this idea to say, if I can just be popular, then I can sell. Mostly people buy because there's this clear pathway that helps them understand, okay, if I just hit this checkpoint and this checkpoint and this checkpoint, then I can see how I get to this tangible transformation. And we don't realize that that's what we're buying when we buy. We think we're buying because someone has got this really big personal brand. So I just probably sent you into a world when there's many different things we can talk about right there. But ultimately, people get caught in the gateway of saying, I need the brand first and I can sell second. So we default to saying, I need the likes, I need the engagement, I need the comments. And if I don't have them, my offer and my entrepreneurial success is tied to them, and therefore I'm failing. When in reality, you really don't need much of it at all. You just need to know who you help, how you target them, and why they say yes or no to you.
I love that. And I think that's one of the biggest traps is, how do you escape that? And I think somebody who's starting off brand new, they've kind of left the 9 to 5 rat race and they want to try and monetize either their business or maybe initially they want to try and monetize themselves. I think coaching is an amazing route for that. One of the issues that comes with that is they're kind of trading their time for money all over again. They're doing, 60, 90-minute client calls. They've got maybe 7 of them in a day. It gets to like 9 p.m. and they're like, I've just basically worked 2 whole days in, my own time and I feel like absolute trash. So how do you escape that? And how do you get out of that one-to-one, essentially rat race of, working one-to-one, really like dialing into one person? I know you're really big into group coaching. I'd love to kind of get your take on why the one-to-one model doesn't work and then a model that's maybe more optimized for the current way that the world works.
Certainly. The simple answer really is group coaching. It is that easy. That's the Lego answer. Group coaching. Many people discount group coaching when they hear that because they think, oh, my clients won't want to be inside a group. And maybe in some very specific circumstances, that may be true. If you're a finance coach, there's only so much you can do in a group before reviewing someone's personal finances. So those are the extreme examples. But if you're a business coach, a career coach, a life coach, you absolutely and should have a group model offer. The alternative is to stack your one-to-ones and be stuck in trading the time for money, the very thing that you just described. So right now I have 80 clients and I'm able to serve them in an hour or less per day. And it's usually the less side of that hour per day. We meet once per week on Tuesdays for about an hour, although I stay long and it turns into a nice 2-hour healthy discussion. But the reason why that works so well is not because I have an endless library of content that they can consume whenever they want. It's because I have a specific library of content, meaning you will come into the program and you'll watch maybe in total 4 hours of videos tops. So you can get through all of what I call my core curriculum, which is very prescriptive in a short amount of time, which means now you're spending most of your time doing the buildup and the work from crafting your offer, learning how to market it in a workshop, and then sell it after the workshop. That's it. It's a minimalist approach with one offer inside one workshop to scale to 20K per month. We don't need endless libraries of content. We also don't need to keep giving people new training upon new training upon new training. I don't introduce a new training every week. And the reason why is because the existing information is sufficient. People don't need more information. They need to get better at applying the existing information they already have access to. And when they do that over and over and over again, Then they're the snowball rolling downhill, picking up momentum, getting bigger. And of course, that's analogous to getting more sales, serving better clients, and scaling a larger business. So I'll pause there before I go
Mm.
on a 10-hour TED talk here.
Yeah, I love that. And you're completely right that we live in the information overload age. Information is not scarce anymore. We've got so much information now that really we're not looking for more information. We're looking for the right information. And I think what's really unique about what you do and about the group coaching dynamic is you're accountable not just to the person who is leading that group, but also to the other members of the group. And so, what I'd be really interested to understand is how does somebody go about structuring something like this? If we think about kind of the funnel approach of, you're on LinkedIn, you're posting content. A lot of people really, like you said, don't know how to monetize that. They might set up a newsletter link and have like a MailChimp and send out a newsletter once a month. But how do you really go from that real top of funnel, just creating very broad content into I have people who are paying me every single month to hear me, to connect with me, and to learn from me?
Yeah, I think with our offers, what we often get caught up in is sell the transformation. It's pretty much the number one piece of echo advice out there in the echo
Yeah.
chamber. Sell the transformation and people will buy. Okay, that's true. But if you really want to do it, sell the pathway that leads to the transformation. You give people enough information, they become an informed buyers. Informed buyers feel safe and secure. So safe buyers are the ones who buy, not
Mm.
because of some big, irresistible, quote unquote, offer, but because they can see, oh, okay, so step one for me is to complete this objective. And if I do these right, this is the outcome I'll have. And then I can move on to step two and complete these objectives. And then it's this outcome. And then step three, these objectives, and then this outcome. Finally, we get to the tangible end state. So what we're really doing then with our offers is solving one problem at three different stages: the beginning stage, the intermediate stage, and the advanced stage. And as people understand that I'm on a journey with a coach progressing through each one of these phases, then I can hit that big transformation or that big tangible end state. But we want to have momentum to build throughout the program because they need time to digest, reflect, implement, and iterate. They're going to go through more failures before they get to wins. So we want to give them little wins that help them get to different checkpoints that allow them to advance further, the same way you would teach someone how to play soccer or football or hockey, or teach them how to read or ride a bike or swim. There are little baby steps that we must take along the way that allow for a progressive path to shape.
That's really interesting that you think of it of three stages, the kind of beginner, intermediate, and pro. Does that also level up the amount that that individual would then pay? Are they paying almost like on a laddered basis where maybe somebody joins, they're getting access to you for $97 a month, and then kind of at the higher levels, they're paying 4 or 5K a month? Is that kind of how it works? Or do you like to keep people typically on the same? Like, how does that typically work?
Yeah, for me, I just reject the style of selling coaching like a SaaS service, where you go to a SaaS page and you see, here's the beginner one, here's the advanced one, and then there's all of a sudden recommended the
Right.
enterprise level or something, and it's the
Contact
most.
sales or one of those annoying, you just like, I don't want to even go there.
Yeah, that's good if you're selling software as a service. But when you're dealing with people that you're going to be working with on a day-to-day basis, my belief is one price, not multiple options. Give someone the in or out type price. And what you
Mm.
can decide is between three variables about how they get in. So price, if let's say, for example, you're selling a 12K coaching offer, so you can decide on price, time, and access. Three variables about how that price is, or how that offer is ultimately sold. Here's an example. The price is 12K, but do they have to pay all 12K in advance? Or can I split that out into multiple payments? Maybe it's 4 payments of 3K and they're spread out over 30 days. Maybe it's 2 payments of 6K. Maybe it's one payment of 1,000 spread over 12 months. Now you've got an MRR model. And it gets even more complex with the time and access variable. So let's go back to the 1K per month over 12 months. Maybe you'd give them a 6-month love it or leave it. So now they're
Mm.
not committing to 12K, but they are committing to 6K, and then a love it or leave it after 6 months. Still get MRR, right? You get 20 of those, you're at a 20K a month business, and you can definitely do that. right? Then there's the access variable. So maybe if someone decides, hey, I'd like to do your paid in full, your 10K upfront for the full year, or maybe they're considering it, and you can say, well, if you do that, I'll tell you what, I'm going to throw in 2 one-to-ones, one at the beginning and one at 6 months. And the first one-to-one will be to help you build out your custom plan. And then 6 months later, we're going to review that plan, see how it's going. And it's not that you wouldn't have reviewed the plan every month with them along the way, but they get 2 special one-to-one settings with you to kick off each of their 6-month phases over the course of a year. So you can play with price, time, and access and move it around. Now you're functioning for your offer as the financier in a sense. And you can decide what your floor is, how the money comes in, where it stops, how much time you commit. When you start doing that, you will close more deals because you'll be able to meet more people where they're at. I do that now, and that's what helped me scale to about 850K in those sales. And in fact, even over the last 2 months, just sales have skyrocketed because of a model that allows for flexibility along those lines. Some people may have a different conviction on that. My conviction is to help people where they're at. Because if we really are coaches, then we really are people. Coaching is a people first business. So if we can help more people with it without feeling like we have to jeopardize our value, then by all means, we should do that. Or at least my conviction is you should double down on that and now build out a really stable, healthy coaching business that doesn't eat away your life and doesn't make you scrambling to ask yourself, where am I going to get my next couple of deals from? Because now you have a stable payment model. So
I want to shift gears slightly and talk a little bit about your LinkedIn presence. Now, I've been on LinkedIn for years and I really got serious in the last year. And you were one of those creators that just kept appearing on my timeline. And all of the content pieces that I saw from you were all unique. They weren't just kind of a regurgitated, you can do it type post. It wasn't a kind of like generic, here's a piece of content and here's a link to kind of book a call with me. I really love your content approach. So maybe you could just speak a little bit about what goes into creating content for you, how you kind of get those ideas across, what your journey on LinkedIn's been like, and really the point at which you really dialed it in and got to the point where you're at now.
yeah, there's a good book that I want to recommend to everyone who's listening to this, and it's called Story Worthy by Matthew Dix. It was a pretty popular book. I'm sure many people have heard of it. But many of us think that when we start posting content, we don't have a story that's worth telling. And that's just simply not true. In fact, many of us have more stories than we can actually count that are worth being able to tell and also be able to tie to a particular business context that would be relevant to our buyers. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it is something worth learning. And the starting point could be that book. In any case, the whole point here with content, I have a bit of a different feeling towards it, or maybe it's the same and I just say it a different way.
Yeah.
Content is ultimately just about building familiarity. Content isn't what sells, in my opinion. Content to me is the front porch. And that brings people to your house, but at least they're on the front porch. It enables conversation, and conversations enable familiarity. So my approach to content is, do I have a story or a simple insight that could be rewritten in a story form, so much so that it builds relatability and by nature, familiarity with me, who I help, how I help them, and why it matters to my particular audience. And in doing so, it keeps me accountable to not write to everyone, kind of like what you were saying at the beginning of the call, the same old regurgitated fluffy content, like all those leadership sheets and everyone requoting Steve Jobs. And I love Steve Jobs and I love leadership. But when someone embraces doing that, they're just perpetuating someone else's ideas or ideas that have already been heard or ideas that can be gathered from anywhere. A simple Google search or a simple prompting of ChatGPT, you can get those ideas. But the second you lean into your story, you are now singling yourself out with your own unique advantage. Everyone has a unique advantage. It's their stories and their experiences and how they tie back to a particular business context that's relevant to the coaching offer they want to sell. And again, I know that doesn't come just like the snap of a fingers, but when you practice and understand that you have something worthy of telling, then you can really lean into creating content that does stand out and that does appeal to your target buyers. So in this AI day and age, and in the age of people joining pods on social media where a bunch of different people like your post and they've never heard of you before, not even relevant. They don't even have a relevant audience to your stuff. Your story is going to be the one that builds the right momentum. And when you do that, you can really begin to have a voice where someone looks at that and say, there's just something different about
Yeah.
that guy or that girl's post. And it hits them different. And they find themselves reading the post and saying, this person understands me better than I understand myself.
100%. And, imposter syndrome is real. I think everybody at some point in their life has dealt with imposter syndrome. I know I have. And it's when you realize that actually your story and what makes you unique, that is your biggest selling point. The ups, the downs. People think it needs to be this kind of glitz and glamour of, I was, flying on this jet last week. It's really not about that. It's about the time where you couldn't afford to even take a bus. That's the kind of stories that really resonate with people. Just to kind of dive into some of the more technical things on LinkedIn, because you spoke a little bit about why pods and different methods that, people may be pitching as ways to grow your account may work when actually they don't. What was it for you, the kind of turning point where you realized on LinkedIn your kind of message was really resonating? Because I think one of the problems I see most is people join LinkedIn or they join another social network trying to speak about themselves, their brands, their story, and they just go through months of getting absolutely no engagement. And that is tough. That is tough to kind of keep on shouting your message out into the world, especially if you have imposter syndrome. You're putting yourself out there and 3 months of absolutely nothing rolling in. That is pretty tough. So how does somebody deal with that? And how did you personally deal with that in your journey?
Yeah, I'll give everyone the same advice that I had to embrace myself. And I didn't like it when I heard it, and I didn't like it when I was going through it. But you have to stick around long enough. This is a simple matter, not of rocket science, not of being a wizard with words, not of being the best copywriter storyteller in the world, but of just being okay with a beginner's mindset, learning that you can get better and better and better and better at something, and then sticking with it long enough to see the results of you getting better and better and better at it. My first post, I was very scared to do that because I'd have maybe 5 to 10 likes, and they were really just generous coworkers of who I was working with at the time. And I even got made fun of from a boss saying, hey, if no one's liking your content, maybe you need to change it up. Maybe you should ask a question at the end of your
Wow.
post, right? He was very elementary advice, kind of tongue in cheek teasing. But at the same time, when you're going through it, you internalize it. I internalized it, and that was really heavy.
Yeah.
I felt very embarrassed when he said that because I felt like it was confirming my suspicions that I just sucked at this. But I did get better, and that engagement did grow, and so did the following, and so did the right audience. But you can't quit. That's the thing here. You don't need to be special. You just need to not quit. And those who stick with it long enough, it becomes a matter of when versus if. A content creator, when I was working at YouTube, said that to me, and it stuck with me for all these years. This is over 10 years ago. He said, YouTube is so big at this point where being a successful YouTuber is really a matter of when and not if.
Wow.
Because the audience is going to continue to grow. So if you are able to consistently put out a message and get better about how you put out that message and learn to say one thing 1,000 different ways, then you will grow over time by default because that audience will be there and there will be someone who resonates. And I think this is ultimately why, last point here, partly anyways, why Alex Hormozi says anything can be a $100 million niche. And it reminds me of when I've seen people, a guy who had 1,800 followers on LinkedIn, very, very tiny. This is 2 years ago. He was making 20 grand a month. And all he did was help dentists book online dental, like the pre-call for seeing,
Right.
some type of dental deal. And he was killing it at the time because I had maybe 30,000 followers or something, maybe 20. I was like at least 10 times larger than him. And I wasn't making that. So I was thinking to myself, my goodness, this guy's talking about dental appointments. How boring is a dental appointment? There's probably no one listening to this that cares about that. But he was dialed in to who he helps, how he gets a conversation with them, and most importantly, why they buy. When you know those three, who it is you're targeting,
Yeah.
how to get into a conversation with them, and why they buy after that conversation, you'll scale whatever coaching business or content strategy you want.
Mm. There is so much value in that last bit. I think you've unpacked that perfectly. And the riches really are in the niches. It's so, it's been
Yeah.
said so many times, but that's the truth. Like, if there is an audience of individuals that have a problem, they will pay you for that solution, whether that is dental, whether that is. I remember I read Russell Brunson's book on offers. I forget what it's called, but he was talking about why basically anybody who has an issue will pay for that, and it could be as small as I'm a housewife that's having trouble bleaching my clothes at this specific temperature. There will be people who will pay for that solution. And I think, like, once you dial into how big the world is, everything is an offer, everybody is approachable, and there is so much opportunity out there. You just need to know who to target, and how to get that message across. So tying that back into content creation is perfect. And the thing that you said about YouTube is so interesting, because you look at creators like Mr. Beast or Logan Paul, Jake Paul, anyone who's got a huge audience. You can look back at their very first video, and like you said, it's all about consistency. It's all about having that consistent approach to, I am relentlessly going to grow. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm just going to put myself out there, and something's going to happen. So, success favors the persistent, I think.
Absolutely. Mr. Beast, I'm so glad you mentioned that. He has said something that is just so inescapable to me. And I could be butchering it a little bit, but here's the essence. He basically
Yeah.
said it's easier to get one video to 100 million views than it is to get 100 videos to 1 million views.
Wow.
What a profound way to really look at that. And I know most people will look at that and they'll say, yeah, less is more. Sure, less is more, but it has to be the right less in order to get the right more. It's not just so much that less is more. It's a whole new paradigm of looking at that less, trimming the fat, making it truly qualitative, highly relatable, and so on. I mean, that could be studied for a long time, that quote, when we really go down to the depths of it. And I want to say one more thing on the niche side of it. When you dial into your niche and you go really narrow, what happens is the broad opportunities actually are more abundant. So I chose not to be the guy that says I help coaches, consultants, solopreneurs, B2B service providers. That's often how you see someone say that, and they have all of those different titles in there because they're afraid of leaving money on the table. I said, nope, I'm only serving coaches, not B2B service providers, not consultants, coaches who want to build an online business. Now, most of my clients are career coaches, number one, business coaches, number two, or life coaches, number three. But because I went narrow and said I don't serve B2B consultants, lately I've had B2B consultants come and knocking on my door asking if they can take what I teach and adapt it to their scenario.
Wow.
So in rare occasions, I say yes if it makes sense. If what I teach from the offer, the workshop, and post-workshop works, then I'll say yes. But if not, then it doesn't make sense for us to work together. And that's okay, because there are so many people in my niche, and likely yours if you're listening to this, that if I just learn to serve them right, if I learn who they are, if I learn how to get a conversation with them, and then I ultimately learn why they buy, then I will be able to scale without ever having to broaden my niche.
I love that. There's so much to take from that. Ryan, this has been so valuable. Before we wrap up, I've just got two questions I'd love to get your take on. The first is, what is one piece of controversial advice that may ruffle some feathers, but for coaches, they may not want to hear, but they need to hear?
Yeah, I say this a lot when I do my workshop. I think many coaches come into this business and they think, I'm first going to launch a course. And the problem with launching a course, although attractive because someone can buy it and you don't have to touch the customer, right? You don't have to do anything. There's no conversations. You can get money while you sleep. And they think, well, I'll just do a $100 course, but I'll put so much time and resources into it. It'll be a no-brainer to buy. But people have played that song and dance. A course actually causes more problems than it delivers solutions because they're not getting your feedback in real time. So it brings up more and more questions with less and less answers. And then all of a
Mm.
sudden you're known as the course guy and you start going to sell high ticket. Now it's like restarting. aren't you that guy with that one course who does that one thing? Well, now you've got people who have bought from you, didn't get the solution. And whose fault is it now that they didn't get the solution? It's yours. So why would they buy from you again? And from the people who you want to sell high tickets to, they're used to seeing you as the course guy. So really just think about that. The controversial advice here is start with premium pricing. Your knowledge is already premium and we're selling at a premium price, something that's $1,000 or more. Don't start with the low ticket. The low ticket thing is actually something that comes years down the road, and it's more of an offer magnet, meaning the course is something that you launch when you have an established audience and you've already got your proven, I can sell high ticket whenever I want. You launch the course as part of an email ecosystem, and it really ultimately serves as a lead magnet. Someone buys into that to get to a certain point, but it ultimately upsells them into your premium program. So all roads point back to what I was saying at the beginning of this, the one price point, the one core offer that you lead with, not a small ticket offer, a medium ticket offer, and a high ticket offer, one core offer to rule them all. Lord of the Rings, right? One ring to rule them all, one offer to rule them all. So start there, forget the course. Just get one core offer right, and you can sell that all the way to $1 million. All the way. Just get better and better and better and better at that. Then look at other stuff you can add.
Yeah, there's so much value in that. And you're completely right. I think coaching has almost replaced the idea of a course where initially everybody wanted a course. Everybody wanted to have something they could just put online, wake up, and there's brand new people without even needing to make a sale. They've got sales waiting for them. And now it's actually almost a negative thing to be attributed to having a course. People are like, oh, he's got a course. Oh, check the link in the bio. He's just selling a course, you know. Oh, he's trading, but he's actually, if you check his bio, he's making all his money from selling courses. I think that coaching is the next step to that. And it's actually way more premium, way more better for both the person who's hosting it, but also the person who's receiving that information. So yeah, completely agree with that. Ryan, this has been amazing. For everyone who's listening and resonating with your approach, how can they get a hold of you? How can they connect with you? How can they learn more about what you do?
Yeah, find me on LinkedIn. That's the best place. I'm most active there.
That's awesome. And can you maybe speak a little bit about your offering and kind of the thing that you're putting across? Because I know that you've got some, you help people make their first 12K and through their kind of coaching offer. Maybe you could speak a little bit about what you do in that case.
Yeah, in fact, I have a workshop that I run every month, and you can find it if you just come to my LinkedIn, or you can send me a message. I can send you the link. Totally free workshop. In that workshop, I will teach you how to craft a 12K group coaching offer, and I'll teach you how to create it or turn it into a 20K launch event. It's my minimalist path, and it's very easy to attend. Just find me on LinkedIn. Let me know you want the link, and I can send it to you, or you'll probably end up just seeing it in my post. So go there and you're all set. Or if someone needs a direct URL, it's coacheswhoclose.com/coaching for cash, all one word.
Love that. And we can put a link in the description as well, so anyone who wants to can find you.
Awesome.
That's been awesome. Ryan, thank you so much for sharing with us. This has been great.
Yeah, Elliot, you asked great questions. You're a wonderful host, man. Thank you for having me. And maybe we'll do this again in the future. We can touch base and see where everyone's at.
Love it. Sounds great. Thanks so much for joining us, Ryan. Appreciate it.